big news items for the day concerning the allegations would be, number one, that Big Ten coaches are collaborating themselves in sign stealing, sharing signs, doing all those sorts of things. Another one would be no connection continues to be the result of the investigation of the NCAA, meaning no connection between Harbaugh and knowledge of the sign stealing, fiasco.
Yeah, sign gate. Just throw gate. I'm a young man, and I don't know how old I was when I realized why gate was put after everything.
Okay.
Why is it Spygate? Why is it Deflate Gate? Yeah, I don't remember when that correlation hit. Maybe in high school, history class.
Yes,
But
Watergate.
the worst scandal in Big Ten history, coming from anonymous sources, talking about a Big Ten that's had a ton of terrible scandals. So, obviously, Mark, I'm biased. You know this. I go on and talk my trash on the show with John and have fun with it. I've kind of been this way the whole time. I don't think it is that big of an impact when it comes to playing football. And now the news has broke that, however many Big Ten coaching staffers, analysts, whatever it is, I don't know what the group chats looked like, are, have a shared spreadsheet of Michigan signs. And I don't care. Like to me, it just doesn't make that big of an impact. When you look at football and the way that it's played, a lot of what the sign stealing is going to get you is run or pass, right? But you can gather that from the alignment of the offensive tackle. If he's got his foot back a little bit, he's going to pass pro, right? Or if he's maybe a little forward in his stance, it's going to be a run. And so I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I think, all the rival fans, and I'm not looking at the right side of the screen here because I'm sure I'm getting some stuff, but I think a lot of the folks that don't like Michigan took this as an opportunity to try to knock Michigan down a peg. They've won the Big Ten 2 years in a row. They want to say it's an asterisk. I was at a wedding in Nebraska with a lot of guys that went to the University of Nebraska, and I got a lot of crap from them. And I just haven't thought that was that big of a deal. And I can't believe we're at this part of the story. Late last week, it was like, oh my gosh, they're going to indefinitely suspend Jim Harbaugh. Now the NCAA says that there's no known connection. Now we know that a lot of the other Big Ten schools were colluding to get Michigan signs. We know on Sundays coaching staffs talk. I'm sure Michigan's a part of that too, right? It's just, look, if the guy went and advanced scouted, then that's one thing. But to have 13 coaches and 13 athletic directors on a call with a new Big Ten commissioner demanding justice before an investigation's even basically started, I just feel like it's jumped the shark. So, yeah, that news, it moved the needle in terms of kind of what the narrative is, that Michigan just had this huge advantage. And now it seems like it's probably way more level than anybody really wants to admit. This whole thing's just ridiculous, Mark. I come on to, these shows and we do live streams on Bleacher Report, and it's like, we get texts from the producers, we got to talk about this. And I'm like, I like football, man. I'm not a NCAA bylaw attorney here. Like, I just want to talk ball. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate that it's really cast a shadow over the Michigan season. Seems like Michigan's kind of firing back at this point, leaking some things, and rumors are there's more stuff to come. I'm sure there's more stuff to come on the Connor Stallion stuff too. So, we're just going to go back and forth and back and forth. And I just saw there was a report that the NCAA said there's no known connection from Ryan Day and the PIs, and it's just like a mess. It's just like, what are we even talking about here? Like, how did this stuff even get out into the open? Like, Jim Delaney would have shut this down immediately, I think. I don't know what you think, but I just feel like this infighting probably happens in a lot of conferences, and their commissioners are more tenured, are a little bit less afraid to stand up and say, hey, let's not get all this out into the open, because there's a lot of things you probably don't want out there too. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate, man. And we'll see what happens with it all, but I just still can't wrap my head around how we're at this point with it. It's like, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But again, I'm biased. And if it was shoes on the other foot, I don't know. I like to think I'm level-headed enough to understand football and know that that's not winning you games by 20 points, but I don't know.
So you've taken us in a few different directions here. I'll start with this. Like you, I want to talk ball. I had a news job early in my career. I was covering a murder trial, like my first 3 or 4 weeks in the media. Like I left that for a reason. Like I didn't want to deal with that. type of news on a daily basis, going to board meetings for city council and trying to understand everything that's going on with all sorts of legal matters. Yeah, I left that for a reason and got into sports, which that's what I wanted to do from the get-go for a reason. And when I was covering college football, meaning direct in person all the time, every day at the news conferences, in the locker room, on the practice field, all that, at the games, on the sideline, man, I had to deal with 3 programs that all went on probation during the 6 to 7 years that I was there for basketball and football. All 3 of them, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama, basketball, football, they all went on probation. So I was dealing with this all the time. There was always an NCAA investigation, usually multiple ones. And I just wanted to cover sports. So I'm right there with you when it comes to that. When it comes to cheating, like I don't understand the concept if it's not gaining somebody an advantage that's meaningful, because that's the only reason you would do it. So that's what I can't get around.
I mean, sorry to cut you off. I just think, who knows? I mean, look, if there's going to be stuff that connects it to other people that were in on this, then I'm going to change my tune, right? I think it's okay to change your stance when you have new knowledge presented.
Yes.
But to immediately jump to Jim Harbaugh knew and they were covering it up and they were doing, like, I just think that this was a guy who's my age. We're the same age. I found this out. And he used to follow me on Twitter, Mark. Big Michigan fan. Like, used to follow me on Twitter. I kind of knew who he was. I knew he was like a volunteer assistant, which I didn't really know what that meant. Like, I was always curious as how he was at like every game. That's kind of some of the stuff that's brought up in an SI article of how he was kind of funding this whole thing and funding his ability to come to games from San Diego, where he was stationed with the Marine Corps, right? And so, just kind of an aside there, but it feels like a guy who just really wanted to be noticed and advance in this career path, right? Like, that's to me what it's, I mean, if the Central Michigan photos are him, that means he wore a wig, right?
Yeah.
Like, that guy had a full head of hair. That means he wore a wig. Like, maybe he had a glued on, I don't know, like a toupee that goes like, so this whole thing is just crazy, man. I know I've seen a lot of comments over there as I glance, and, look, if Jim Harbaugh didn't know, it's still his program and there still should be some sort of appropriate punishment. But the people wanting to suspend him indefinitely, it's why I can't wrap my head around it. No. I really can't. No. Like, I can't figure out how we got to this point where it's the worst scandal ever to some people. Like, I just, and the ESPN media storm last Wednesday, where it felt just very much like an email memo went out and it said bash Michigan and Harbaugh. Like, Stephen A. Smith is talking about this. I don't know the last time I've ever seen Stephen A. Smith talk about college football. Like, I don't know. Again, I'm not, no tinfoil hats, no conspiracies here. It's just been a weird situation, man. It really has been. And, I wish, rival fans could maybe try to put themselves in the shoes of somebody who is a Michigan fan and just, I don't know, just look at it from an objective point of view, right? Because I understand where fans of other teams are pissed off. I do get it, right? I understand. But I just think it for sure is whataboutism, right? But if we're all doing it, what's the advantage?
Yeah.
Why is there an asterisk, right?
Yeah. So this is why I think it's this big. Is typically when we've seen NCAA investigations, number one, they almost always involve recruiting. Before NIL, recruiting scandals, bags being dropped off, grades being changed to keep players eligible, all those things that involve recruiting. And for as much as people are obsessed with recruiting, it's not as tangible. It's more like, okay, the news broke today, the NCAA is investigating Tennessee for recruiting violations. Okay, then so that's the big news for the day. It lasts for a couple of days and then it's kind of fades off. And people forget about it because there's nothing tangible to point to, like watch a game and say, this game could be impacted by that. Now, then the investigation concludes, and a year later or whatever, then the NCAA hands down penalties and says, Tennessee did X, Y, and Z, and we are going to punish it in this way. And everybody's agrees or disagrees and argues about it. And that's that. What we are seeing here is people I think, have more of a tangible, okay, if you steal signs, and then everybody has it in their minds to different levels, what kind of advantage is that? None. It's not a big deal. Or all the way to, well, you would have never won these games without knowing these signs. So people are all over the place and have different levels of knowledge, but they can turn on a game. This is in season and say, Michigan's playing and they steal signs. So I think that's what's made it. Plus, shoot, we've only had so many scandals in college football during the age of social media. So even though social media has really been around about 15 years, it's only probably been 5, 6, 7 years that people are like, everybody's on it all the time. And it's completely saturated almost everybody's lives. So there haven't been that many college football scandals during that time to where people can constantly talk about it and blast off about it with every possible inane, stupid, idiotic take on it imaginable.
Yeah, and I want to address some of the comments that I'm seeing here. Yes, Connor Stallions was the signs guy, so he was going to be by the coordinators. Like nobody is arguing that. Ohio, I know who Mark. I'm sure you know, but Brent Zadebski is Ohio State sign guy. Like these guys exist, right? And again, it's that allegedly he went above and beyond and hired third party accountants, like a 45-year-old accountant with an iPhone 12 to go and record. It's just the craziest thing to me. I just still can't wrap my mind around it. But again, look, Michigan should have some sort of punishment, but to sit here and I think you and I are on the same page here, Mark, but for some people to sit here and even coaches to sit here and demand that Jim Harbaugh be indefinitely suspended in the middle of an undefeated potential national championship run I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when I hear that. Like I mean, look, if these penalties, I truly think what's going to happen is Michigan's probably got some ammo in the chambers that's going to give them the ability to try to kind of fight this and show, hey, this wasn't that big of a deal, and you're opening up a can of worms. And who knows if Tony is it Petiti? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
The big commish wants to deal with that. Year one on the job. I mean, he's only been on the job since the summer. So nice opening year for him to deal with this. But, I think, look, just to, again, show that it's not as big of an advantage, Michigan's outscoring opponents 90-13 without Connor Stallions on the sideline. So, and both teams they played has said they changed their signs. So again, I don't like, it's not like you get the sign, you have 20 seconds maybe to get the information into your players. It's not like you're like, all right, they're running they're running this concept. Here's the perfect defense to defend. Like, it's not how it works, right? Like, that's just, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to be a bit hard on Michigan here. So brace yourself, Tanner.
Go for it.
Okay. But as we always are, measured and logical here. So if I'm not logical, you let me know. Number one, there's only one reason that you cheat. So regardless of how much any of us can try to measure how much that cheating impacts the game, there's only one reason to do it. Like, is there any other reason to cheat than to change the result of the game, or think that what you're doing is going to impact the result, to either change the result or ensure that the result is going to be in your favor? That's the only reason you would ever cheat at anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Then the next point would be that, and otherwise, I've told Michigan fans this in particular, that if it doesn't give you an advantage, then that's actually more stupid.
Yeah, no, I think it's stupid. I don't think I don't think they needed to do it. And it's, it's an embarrassment. And the fact that we even have to have this conversation is the frustrating part.
But we may be finding out that others are doing something similar, and then it's just going to be like, well, everybody's doing something that's breaking the rules.
Yeah, so. I mean, we're going 65 and a 55. If you really look at this in comparison to some of the things that are going on out there, like, you think this is a competitive advantage? What about buying 5 stars left and right? Like, is that a competitive advantage? Michigan may have broke the rules.
Yeah.
It's alleged the rules are not very clear because they were written in 1994, when they implemented it for cost saving measures. And I don't think they envisioned Steve Jobs and the iPhone. Right. So who knows? The letter of the law,
Exactly.
no, but the spirit of the law, yeah, you probably broke it.
And that's one of the very first things I brought up when we got into this. And it was like, okay, this just broke. And you're looking at this and okay, why is this rule in play? Because teams steal signs. Okay, they can't do it. And why did they take that? Oh, it had everything to do with budgetary concerns, trying to protect the Ball States of the world because they don't have any money to go advance scout.
Exactly.
Well, okay. So it's not in and of itself the rule in place because of some ethical or moral concern. It's not an ethical or moral concern, but not everyone can do it. So we're going to try to flatline and make it equitable and fair for everyone. So we're eliminating it. So let's understand that sign stealing in and of itself, everyone, has not been deemed in sports and in football in particular to be like ethically or morally wrong. It's not. That's everyone's standard. They will all steal signs. Then the other place where I'm going to be a bit hard on Michigan would be I just can't fathom that they could get signs from Connor Stallions and that Harbaugh and the coordinators wouldn't know.
Wouldn't know that he
how
had
he's
signs
getting
or
that
how he's getting them.
information, how he's that good at it.
Well, I would say to that, I mean, you saw his LinkedIn resume, right?
Yes.
I mean, this guy's an embellisher. I mean, again, I think it goes back to this guy wanting to advance through the ranks. And again, you're going to have a sign guy and you're going to, I mean, again, everybody has a sign guy. So I don't know. I'm with you, but at the same time, I don't think should have known is grounds to indefinitely suspend someone like the Big Ten is claiming at the moment, which I know you and I agree on that point. But I don't know. I mean, he's going and you can look at the TV copy. That's again what makes it so dumb. Is you look at the TV copy, you can potentially see stuff on the all 22 depending on how quickly they get the video started before a play and how wide their shot is. The best man at my wedding is, again, it's high school, but he's a defensive coordinator in the state of Ohio, in Eden, Ohio, up in Northwest Ohio. And talking to him, he's like, I'm going to be honest, when I go to huddle, first thing I do is look and see if I can get signs, and so, there's legal ways to obtain it. But again, Connor Stallions and his vast network of random people or friends and family and whoever's on his Venmo account, may have stressed the rules by quite a bit. But it's just unfortunate that it's put a damper on the Michigan season. And, that's the tough part, that Michigan fans are going to have to kind of wear this scarlet letter, right? You wear the black M around and it's still prideful, but it's like, somebody's going to say something stupid to me, and I'm just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah. And believe me, Tanner, we'll get away from this in just a second. But a lot of things are just popping into my mind concerning all of this. And I think the whole crux of this is going to be, we're at a place where if nothing else comes out concerning Michigan, that, they get a slap on the wrist. And my version of that is some level of, not necessarily scholarship reductions, but recruiting visits limited. Maybe Harbaugh's got a suspension of 2 games and maybe some fines and money. The crux of all this is going to come to the point in which, did Harbaugh know what was going on? Did he either just know it was going on or did he initiate it? And that's what it's all going to boil down to, in terms of it really raising the roof of, okay, wow, this is going to be dealt with harshly by the NCAA. So, Tanner, I'm going to ask this next question. We are done with the allegations and all that business. And I know as soon as I ask this question, all sorts of people in the chat are going to answer it in a certain way, thinking of all that. But we are going to brush that all aside as though it did not exist. This is a big picture question. Why is Michigan football different post 2020 than what it was before? What happened?
I think you look at the coordinators they hired. I know that's a leading question, Mark. There's a lot that out there that Mike McDonald was really good at stealing signs. Well, he just, casually has the number 1 defense in the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens. I think they made some changes to their philosophy. I think they got a lot of bad eggs out of the building. We actually had the opportunity to speak with a number of players. We did, I think it was 4 players that we did an in-person podcast with that will be coming soon. I don't know when we're going to be able to release that, but talking to those guys, the culture is completely different from 2019, 2020 to 2021. Also Aiden Hutchinson, JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, Hassan Haskins, offensive line is playing amazing, right? Like, I don't think I don't think you can point to having signs as the reason that you are physically dominating opponents on the field. If you want to look at the 2021 Ohio State game, I don't think any signs could have saved anybody in that game. I mean, Michigan's getting 2 to 3 yards of movement at the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I think you got a lot of great NFL players. Look at DJ Turner, Dax Hill, Mozzie Smith. I already mentioned Hutchinson, David Ojabo, Brad Hawkins. You got Rod Moore now. I mean, you got Chris Jenkins. Like, got good players, man. Got good players, good coaches.
Okay. Tanner, appreciate you stopping by. Great stuff with you. Tell us all about Blue by 90 and what people can find out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us online at blueby90.com or on Twitter at blueby90. You can find me at Tanner Wu-Tang on Twitter /X. I don't know. I'm going to call it Twitter, Mark. That's just, I'm going to do that. Right, for anybody in the Ann Arbor area, I believe we are going to be having a watch party for the Penn State Michigan game at the Pretzel Bell in downtown. Great Ann Arbor establishment. Going to be having some beer provided by North Peak Brewing, who we're partnered with. So should be a great weekend. And yeah, looking forward to talking football, man. This is I'm out of my depth when it comes to this stuff too. I'm not a lawyer, I don't pretend to be. Like, this stuff is just not how my brain works.
Yeah. So and it just wears on me. I know that people are always asking for us to make predictions and say what's going to happen and what concerning games and coaches, who's going to be the next coach here and all those things. I'm fully equipped to take that on. But yeah, this just wears me down trying to keep up with all of this. And I don't do the best at it. And I tell my audience all the time, this is not the place to find the latest information. We will respond to it when something's substantiated, but we're not going to run down speculation lane and go through all that garbage all the time. Tanner, appreciate you being here. Are you a big betting guy, point spread guy? Do you do that? Predictions?
I can give you my score prediction. I think Michigan wins 27-13. Maybe, like Marty said, maybe a late touchdown. I did want to comment. Somebody mentioned that Vegas was mad or the gambling world is mad. Michigan has the best odds to win the national championship per bet MGM, and I don't know what other books. So, Vegas knows. So I would counter that. Talking about Vegas, they've got Michigan with the best odds at plus 225. So that's interesting. I don't know what to make of that. Again, I'm not a gambling guy, but I just, I find that interesting because it hasn't appeared to move the needle for Vegas much.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you, do you remember what those odds were prior to this coming out?
I don't know.
But they're still the best.
Yeah, they're still number one. So yeah, it's an interesting time, and we're gonna find out the facts through the investigations, plural, that the NCAA and Big Ten are conducting. But hey, look, Michigan did it; they did it, and hand down a fair punishment. So, and part of that, I think, is going to be Michigan folks going to have to just deal with it. Just going to suck it up and deal with the cheaters, asterisks. I know I did this weekend, like I told you at that wedding. So, you're going to be a Big Ten country, man. You're going to hear about it. So it's all part of college football, man. It's why it's the best sport in the world.
Well, at least your buddy knew to have the wedding last weekend and not this weekend.
Yes, that is a good point. I was hoping it was during the bye week, but you know what? It's all good. So we were able to watch the game and have fun. And fall weddings, I get it. It's not so hot. I'm not dying in a suit, which is the nice part. So,
because I was going to tell you, man, that with the phone in one hand and the drink in the other on the dance floor, that you basically just missed the same Michigan game that they play every week. It's been the same game like over every week.
Yeah. Well, and with this game, I'd be able to actually watch it before the wedding, instead of being a night game against Purdue for some reason. I don't know. NBC gotta get the numbers up, but I don't know if Michigan Purdue deserves a night game. So, but yeah, excited for some real football, man. A real team. Penn State's a damn good team. They played Ohio State extremely tough, and it's gonna be a tough environment, like Marty said. So it's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tanner. Enjoyed the game. Appreciate it.
All right, Mark. Thank you, sir.